With increasing public attention on America's infrastructure, government agencies across the U.S. are looking to deliver safer roads and bridges in a sustainable, cost-effective way. Hi there, I'm Nick Frank, producer of Ask the Expert. Today, I'm talking with expert Britt McCurry about effective strategies to manage and maintain transportation infrastructure at the state and local level. Britt McCurry has more than 15 years of experience in infrastructure asset management and maintenance, including engineering leadership roles at the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Britt has also worked with the pavement preservation industry, managing statewide preservation contracts, and currently serves as the program manager for the maintenance management unit of Summit Design and Engineering, an award-winning consulting firm. His team assists with multiple maintenance-related projects at the state and local level, including transportation asset inventory, pavement preservation, guardrail management, and geographic information systems. Britt, thanks for being our expert today.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Now, we're seeing a lot of national attention on infrastructure at the state and local levels. So I'm excited to dive in and hear about some of the projects that you're currently working on at the public sector level.
Sure. So thanks for asking. So on the municipal level, we do a lot of work with pavement condition surveys, going out and identifying deficiencies and coming up with treatment selections, looking at the deficiencies that are existing on the road and different treatment selections, helping the municipality based on their size and staffing with any kind of contracting services to build those contracts. And then on the back end, working with them to also manage the contract and oversee those projects for full delivery. On the statewide level, we do a lot of work with the North Carolina Department of Transportation and other states in the Southeast with asset inventories, anything from cross-line pipes, drainage structures, the conditions and any deficiencies related to those, working with our stormwater unit to develop plans to help improve the existing system or create plans to utilize contract services or state forces to repair, to manage repairs and any upgrades. Other items we look at are guardrail, utilizing GIS to manage guardrail and damage hits, helping with third-party reimbursements. A lot of exciting stuff going on with the state and municipal level right now.
Well, and I'm excited to talk with you today about our main topic, which is transportation infrastructure maintenance for these state and local levels. So as we just dive right into it, what challenges do these local governments face when maintaining their transportation infrastructure in a sustainable, cost-effective way?
Sure. Well, every government entity or even private industry struggles with different levels of inputs. Three of the largest things that we see across the board are funding, inflation related to funding, and then staffing issues. And all three of those are related in a lot of different ways. If you look at funding, first of all, there tends to be, from a maintenance standpoint, a shortfall from what it really takes to manage a maintenance program. A lot of states look at building, large construction projects, building new interstates, helping with traffic flow, helping kind of manage incident locations, things like that. And unfortunately, a lot of times maintenance tends to be kind of the thing that happens, after the fact. And they scramble a lot and try to, find different funding sources to take care of these items. In addition to that, we're seeing, inflation. We've seen it, multiple times throughout history, but right now we're experiencing a lot of inflation. Cost of materials goes up. And, with the limited funding you have, now it costs a lot more to do some of the same functions that you could have done last year, maybe twice as expensive now. So, that takes a toll on our existing funding and our existing infrastructure and how we manage and maintain it. The third piece of that is looking at staffing. Across the board, we've had a lot of staffing issues from the private sector and the government sector. And when you have limited funding, you have higher prices, and then you have staffing issues. That's kind of the trifecta of, how do we manage what we have? How do we take care of the infrastructure that we have? If we don't have the money to complete the work and we don't have the personnel to complete the work, everybody tends to be in a scramble.
And how do those challenges that you just touched on, the funding, the inflation, the staffing, how does that impact the effectiveness of the infrastructure maintenance programs?
Sure. If a municipality, for example, small municipality has a real, very basic, maintenance program where they're going out and they're looking at, anytime somebody calls in a pothole or has a complaint, and that's really all you're addressing, the long-term viability of that system is going to start to fail. If you're not looking at ways to preserve what you currently have from, preservation techniques on a pavement to making sure that your pipes and your drainage system are cleaned out and well maintained to limit erosion and flooding issues, those can create large problems long term. From a municipal standpoint, when they don't have the funding in place to manage that long-term preservation type program, it's going to start a trickle effect. It's kind of like a snowball rolling downhill. The faster it goes, the longer it rolls, the larger it gets. So those problems just tend to add up over time.
And from your perspective, how do you both combat those challenges, and what is your recommended approach to that infrastructure maintenance?
Sure. We like to take the approach of a couple different methods that we look at and we utilize. We like to take a look at what are your existing assets, what streets do you have, what pavements, what types of pavement do you have out there, what are the deficiencies of those pavements, what does your drainage system look like, how well maintained are your ditches and your cross lines, what issues are related to those and their life cycle. What are those, what were they designed when they were initially designed and installed, what was their life expectancy, and what have you done to maintain that life expectancy? So we like to take a look at not only the location of the assets, but the current condition of the assets at this point in time, and then we take more of a preservation approach. Now, it's always, even at a state level and a municipal level, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You always have a lot of complaints. There's a pothole here. Why haven't you fixed this? Why is this sign missing? Obviously, you're going to have to manage those issues and manage those complaints on a higher level. But our approach is, if you look at a preservation and a long-term technique to addressing these addressing these issues, then over time, the squeaky wheel tends to disappear. If you preserve your pavement, if you put money into maintenance and you take care of your drainage issues before it becomes a major issue, you maintain that ditch, you make sure that the water can flow and stay off the road, you're not going to have the cracking, you're not going to have the number of potholes. So, obviously, like I said, you're going to have what we consider a fire crew, somebody to put out the fires when you have an emergency. But from a long-term preservation approach, it really makes a difference on the life and the complaints that you're going to receive.
I can imagine the amount of phone calls that happen for those exact reasons. And you kind of touched on it a bit. How does pavement preservation fit into that overall transportation infrastructure maintenance strategy?
Sure. Well, we talked about, inflation and rising prices and limited funding. And, a lot of preservation techniques, a pavement preservation technique is typically a cheaper monetarily cheaper treatment type than your hot mix asphalt, your full depth reclamations, your larger scale paving projects. Those definitely have their place. And if the maintenance is limited on a highway for an extended amount of time, then you're going to have a full depth reclamation. But as we mentioned a minute ago, if you have a maintenance plan and you're able to execute that plan and you're able to implement a preservation approach where you're addressing some minor cracking in a pavement before it becomes a pothole, you're sealing it off, you're doing a crack seal, you're doing an AST, a chip seal treatment, then you're sealing off that crack, you're stopping the water intrusion from getting underneath and creating a pothole. Number one, you've extended the life expectancy of that pavement. Number two, you've completed a treatment on that asset at a lower price.
And the lower price part is something that I'm sure local agencies will love to hear about not
absolutely
as much money. As we kind of shift to some technology talk, how do you leverage technology to improve that approach to infrastructure maintenance?
Sure. Well, really, it's all about the workflow. If you look at a process of a maintenance plan and going out and doing what we call an asset inventory or a payment condition survey, and you're collecting the data and you're collecting the data on where the assets are, what they look like, what their condition is. If you write all this information down on a piece of paper, one, that piece of paper could be lost. If it's in a spreadsheet, sure, that's great. But, from a spreadsheet standpoint, you're not getting a visual. You don't have a spatial idea of where this information is. If I'm the one doing the data collection, I'm out there, I know exactly where it is if I've input it in the spreadsheet. But if I hand it to you, Nick, and you've never seen this town or this municipality, you don't know where 3rd Street is. You have no idea. So the point is, using that information and using more of a GIS specific, location specific process to collect the data, and that data will follow you throughout the life of the work plan. It follows you through the contracting or you're putting out the fires, you identified a pothole and here's where it's located. Your team can then go address it immediately. They don't have to scramble around and figure out where it's at, what street it's on, what intersection it lies in. You know exactly where it is. Your map can take you straight to it. From a contracting standpoint, we're able to collect information based on what needs to go into that contract while we're standing on site. That information can then flow straight into the contract, go to the contractor after it's been awarded, go to the inspection that's in the field, managing the contractor, making sure that they're doing what you ask them to do from day one. So all that information just gets passed along. With that workflow, with all that we've just mentioned, comes the cost savings. You're not having to scramble. You're not having to ask a lot of questions. Well, what did he mean here? What did he mean at 3rd Street? I wanted, 5 tons of patching. Where did he want that patching? It's all in this map. It's all in this technology information that you have and you can pass along to anybody. So that's really what we look at and how we plan, how we use technology in the workflow and the cost savings throughout the life of the project. It makes our job easier. It makes the job for you more cost effective.
Now, you kind of touched on some of these in that answer right there, but what are some other benefits that government agencies are realizing when they adopt this approach to preserving and maintaining their infrastructure?
Sure. Well, number one, we mentioned a minute ago is the cost savings, but number two is, when you look at how a pavement is designed and how it's installed and when it's put down, you have what's called a life curve. It's just like us, we have a 75-year lifespan, roughly, average. And the same thing with pavements or anything else. It has a 20-year lifespan, a 30-year lifespan. But what are the things that you can do? Just like us, we can exercise, we can eat healthy, we can eat vegetables, and that's going to help us stay healthier and in general. So from a pavement standpoint, if you adopt a preservation approach and a more long-term maintenance vision, then you're gonna have those vegetables, you're gonna have that exercise, and that pavement is going to last longer and cost you less over the life of that asset.
I don't know about you, but I'm banking on at least 120 years old. But that'd be a lot of vegetables.
Yes, it would. A lot of broccoli
to make it that long. We're talking about some benefits and the positive power of the maintenance and the preventative maintenance capabilities. Can you provide some examples of agencies that are utilizing that strategy successfully?
Sure. So a lot of municipalities that we work with on a regular basis in the past have looked at a worst first approach, which we would call they look at their worst pavements. They're going to use what funding they have available to do a full depth reclamation or an patch and overlay of that street system. And that's great. Like I said earlier, you have to be able to address those issues. But for example, if you have a 50-mile system that you're responsible for maintaining, you have a limited budget. Every year, you may be able to only fully pave 3 miles of that, for example. If you take a preservation-based approach, looking at different treatments that you have in your toolbox, it's all about the tools that you have available to use, and the lower prices of those treatments and the benefits of those treatments, then you may be able to surface treat 5 to 7 miles of road every year. And the public's going to see that. You're going to see the long-term benefit from the life of the pavement, but the public's going to see, well, they're using our tax dollars to the best of their ability to make sure our infrastructure stays up to par. We also kind of implement some of these techniques on school systems. We have a local school system in North Carolina where they've gone out and they've asked us to go and visit every school site, do an assessment on all of the pavement structures within the property, be streets and parking lots. And, one of the benefits that they're seeing is our ability to go out, utilize the technology to collect the data initially. Now we're able to go back out, identify the streets and what treatments we recommend from a preservation approach and how to implement that in the school system, how to best use those dollars that they have available to them to treat the system. We work around a grouping of contracts. If you think about a school schedule, some schools are year round. Some schools only have a small window that you're able to have somebody on site to do work without interrupting school, without, having large equipment around children and having to manage that safety. It's all about how do we group it? How do we safely complete the project in these areas? So it's a lot of information to take in, but being able to look at the data from a technology side of things and spatially, we're able to, manage that schedule. On a statewide level, some of the things that we're able to do is establish what we call a QA/QC program for pavement preservation with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. We help at a statewide level manage preservation contracts. And when I say manage, we visit every contractor while they're on site. We coordinate with the local NCDOT personnel and with the contractor to make sure that they're completing the project within the guidelines of DOT, within the guidelines of what the expectation of the contract is. Again, so the contractor provides a quality product for the amount of money, and NCDOT receives a quality product that's going to extend the life of that pavement.
Britt, let's say you're a worker at a local government agency, city, county level. What are some steps that they can take to get started with an effective infrastructure maintenance strategy?
Sure. Well, if you're a worker at a local agency, you're the first person on the ground. You're the one that's out there and you see what your system looks like. You have that knowledge and that background. You know what you're having to manage effectively every day. You may have questions about, how do I do my job better? How do I improve what I do personally that's also going to benefit the municipality as a whole? Reach out to your management staff, ask them if they have any plans or anything that they plan on implementing. If they don't, then, reach out to your partners within the community, your firm, your engineering firms, anybody else that you may know to educate yourself on what are some new techniques out there that I'm not familiar with. We're happy to help partner. We're happy to help educate. We're not here to just do the work for you. We're here to educate you and teach you to do the work. If you have a desire to improve what you do on a local level or a statewide level, that's what we're here to accomplish.
And Britt, before I let you go, any final thoughts?
I really appreciate the time spent here today, Nick. I appreciate you reaching out to ask questions, and I'm happy to help.
Britt McCurry, the program manager for the maintenance management unit at Summit Design and Engineering. Thanks for being our expert today.
Thank you, Nick.